Demond Robinson, a transfer from Murray State. Jumping center with Sam Godwin of the Terriers. Wofford ball to start it out.
And we'll see primarily man-to-man out of both teams. Kennesaw State will mix it a little bit. They'll show some zone in the half court. They'll press a little bit, but primarily we'll see a lot of tough physical man-to-man at both ends.
Godwin tries the baby hook. Robinson on the rebound, and Godwin, another of the bigs inside that's trying to grow his role in the absence of Jones for the Terriers.
And lefty head double figures 8 times as a freshman.
Not a bad idea on the pass inside, but taken away. Ryan Larson with the steal, and then he gives it up. Pushing the pace. Terrell Burden on the wing, and Rogers gets the scoring going. Spencer Rogers 30% from the outside. 19:50 to go in the opening half, and a 3-0 Kennesaw State lead.
Well, Rogers has his feet set. Nice 2-on-1 break right there. You don't see Larson out of control too often.
Bigelow losing the handle. B.J. Mack, the South Florida transfer, defended by the best on-ball defender for Kennesaw, Brandon Stroud. Mack lost it and got it back. Little bank shot in a 3-2 game.
Well, you can see right away the officials are going to let him play just a little bit. A lot of bumping and banging down there. Players have to adjust to the way the officials play. Officials don't adjust to the players.
Kennesaw State 2 years removed from a 1-win season in the first year of their current head coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. They won just 5 a year ago, but they've slowly shown improvement. We'll talk more about that as we continue today. A little fall away with Godwin defending for Demond Robinson, originally from Montgomery, Alabama, about 8 points a game, and the Owls go up 5-2.
Played 2 years at Murray State, and he played when he was with the Racers. He's kind of finding his role here with the Owls.
Just under 18 to play. Clock winds here in the opening half. Away from the ball. Going to get an offensive foul on Larson, and that'll be the first called in the game.
Now Larson was trying to screen for teammate Klesmet down in the corner. Ryan Larson, he's as tough as they come. I mean, he's arguably the Terriers' best perimeter defender. He'll need to get after Burden all night long and try to throw the Owls out of whack.
Owls team that's been close against some tough opponents this season, but it's been a long time since they won a game on the road. Bad pass there. Mack tries to make him pay, and he does. All 4 Wofford points belong to B.J. Mack, the South Florida transfer out of Charlotte. 5-4 game, Kennesaw up by a point.
Nice job by Mack right there, showing some handles, big fella.
Kennesaw State team, their coach telling us before the game, they will go through some lulls on both ends of the floor, and that time away from the ball. First personal of the game called on the Owls. It'll go against Spencer Rogers.
Well, a similar call that we just saw at one end. Bobby Lineberger, the official, making both calls. Both were illegal screens. The guys didn't come to a 2-foot jump shot, stop, excuse me.
Lineberger joined by Chase Faden and Scott Bennett on our officiating crew today. Morgan Safford for the Terriers. Here's Bigelow. 6'7" can be a real matchup problem to defend out on the wing, especially once these Terriers get into SoCon play. Mack penetrates, and B.J. Mack gives the Terriers their first lead of the afternoon at 6-5, just under 17 to go here in the opening half.
Pete, we talked about it at the top. He's in better condition, so he's able to run the floor and move, showing a lot of different activity here in the first couple of minutes.
Mack off a 15.6 rebound game against the Richmond Spiders, and a foul will be called on the Terriers. Isaiah Bigelow.
Well, in talking to Coach Abdur-Rahim before the game, you know, he was talking about a number of different things in trying to teach this team how to win, but also he talked about sharing the ball, and you know, the go-to guy needs to be the open man. But I will tell you that Chris Youngblood is a big key for this team, and they need to find him. They need to get him going. He is a talented offensive player with a smooth stroke.
There's Youngblood with the ball, feeds inside, quick pass, and a nice finish by Nate Springs, the Ohio transfer for Kennesaw State out of Charlotte, his first bucket of the game, and Kennesaw moves back in front. Having a graphics issue right now. We saw our scorebud momentarily make an appearance. Mack throwing it away. Right now our crew furiously behind the scenes with sledgehammers and a variety of different tools trying to get things worked out on that front. But we'll keep you posted on the score. Take another look at the errant pass.
Well, they were just trying to get Safford on the cut right there. You know, we've seen a couple of turnovers now by the Terriers, uncharacteristic turnovers. They are generally solid with the ball.
Wofford gives it up only about 11 times a game. Kennesaw State a lot of man-to-man. They won't try to force turnovers. That time knocked into the backcourt by the Terriers. Plenty of time on the shot clock as Stroud brings it back across. Crosses over on Safford, out of bounds at O'Connor. You look to last Sunday, and they are capable, even with the loss of a talented player like Messiah Jones. They went into Athens and got the win against Georgia.
Absolutely. As you see Kennesaw throw a little 1-3-1 half court out of the timeout just to mix things up just a little bit. But no, you're absolutely right. First SEC victory for the Terriers since 2018, and Jay McCauley's first win. He played as a walk-on at UGA between 2003 and 2006.
So a thrill for him, and this Terrier team, of course, known for slaying giants since 2000. They've had roughly a dozen wins against power conference teams. Of course, not only of recent note, the victory over Georgia, but in the NCAA tourney, they did proud by the SoCon with the opening round win in 2019 against Seton Hall. And boy, a couple of bounces either way, and they're in the Sweet 16 with a win against Kentucky that year. But these Terriers still trying to get some things figured out early on here against Kennesaw State. Shot clock at 5. Let's see if Youngblood realizes that he does, and you see the smooth touch out of a 45% shooter.
Yeah, he was on the all freshman team for the Atlantic Sun, the A-Sun last year, and rightfully so, he earned it. I mean, he's an all-conference kind of talent for this team. One of the cornerstones. You talked about the recruiting class. We'll get into it more, but I love everything about Chris Youngblood.
Mack has done the scoring so far for the Terriers. Has a size advantage on Youngblood. Uses it. P.J. Mack, he's a one-man machine.
He has done it from one side, now the other. He's done it in transition. He's done it with the right hand, now the left hand. Showing you a little bit of everything here in the first 5.5 minutes.
Hard contact inside. They're going to get Springs for running into Mack. It'll be the first on the post player. 6'10" Nate Springs for the Kennesaw team.
Pretty interesting. I mean, you make that call on the baseline, but yet you just saw Youngblood trying to defend Mack, and both of those guys banging bodies.
And it's funny, away from the ball, and that was away from the ball just then, but often we hear about the illegal screen, and you don't notice it out of the corner of your eye. That was hard not to notice the contact right there.
That's right.
In the lane. Ryan Larson, one of the holdovers from that 30-win team, takes the ball from Mack. Now he finds the big man inside. Couldn't find the handle, so Larson thought about a three. Instead, in the corner it goes, and Luke Turner, the freshman from California, gets a feed from a sophomore, Safford. Can't get the roll, but Turner will head to the line. Luke Turner, one of the newcomers in this Wofford team, and even without Jones available, they still go about 10 or 11 deep.
They do. Watch this again. Nice rebound by Safford, and then he finds the cutting Turner. He is a positionless player, if you will. He can stretch the floor. Now, most of his shots are three-point field goals. He is known as a shooter, but he can do a lot of things mid-range. He can do it in close. Interesting guy out of Santa Margarita High School. Same high school as Klay Thompson out in Southern California.
They can only hope that his health record proves to be better in terms of injuries. No on the second rebound, on the second free throw, the rebound by Brandon Stroud. And for Turner, by the way, of note, from the line this year, now 1 of 2, so he just made his first free throw as a Terrier, but there's an answer from the outside by Jameer Moultrie, the North Carolina Central transfer. And Kennesaw State matches its early three-point lead. Max Klesmit, turnaround three for the top scorer for the Terriers.
You simply cannot lose sight of him. He's going to run off a lot of screens, misdirect. but when he can come and pop out to the three-point line and get his shoulders square, he's going to shoot a high percentage behind the arc.
Had just 6 points in the Wednesday loss to Richmond. Was hobbled a little bit going into that game. Jay McCauley told us beforehand, but he averages over 15 a game. Does Klesmit. Shot clock under 10. Moultrie, the penetration, off balance. Mack for the Terriers. Here comes Wofford. Those were the first points from the field scored when Klesmit hit the three from someone other than B.J. Mack of Wofford so far in this opening half.
Kennesaw doing a nice job of defending. They missed Klesmit the last time down, but otherwise they've been pretty solid.
Klesmit out front. Turner, nice job. Guy from California made what you might call a volleyball play, and then Klesmit recovers inside. Safford. Still some time on the shot clock. Larson, Mack on the cut. Pretty play.
Absolutely read the situation right. Acted as though he was going to screen for Larson and then slipped right to the basket. Just a high IQ basketball play right there by B.J. Mack.
Third lead change of this opening half. Drive inside. Moultrie tried to dish.
Done a really nice job. It starts with recruiting. You see the talent now coming in, and then the next step is learning how to win, particularly on the road.
Off the inbound to beat the shot clock. Not going to go down for Stroud, but good hustle. And the rebound gathered up by Isaiah Reddish just into the game for the Owls. And then Jennings trying to feed to Reddish, but it's a turnover for Kennesaw State, so they give it up. Owls team that came in averaging about 14 a game, and that'll be their fourth so far. And interestingly, Jay McCauley, the Wofford coach before the game, noting that he remembers back in his high school days playing high school ball for his high school in the Atlanta area.
Yep.
Against Abdur Rahim.
That's right. Played at Pope High School and somewhat a rival. And I think he was a year older than Abdul Rahim, but nevertheless, they played against each other in high school.
Just into the game for the Terriers, Austin Patterson, another guy from the Golden State of California, and the man with the red hair, able to give the Terriers team a 5-point advantage.
Well, he's a guy that joined the program about this time last year.
Was supposed to go to a prep school. That didn't work out because of COVID, so he flies in, and a couple of days later played for them and made an impact in their win against Coastal Carolina. Nice idea inside, but Reddish unable to finish on the quick dish from Robinson. Terriers a chance to build on their biggest lead so far. Godwin inside, had to change hands, gets his own rebound. And Robinson looked like he was holding his ground, but the whistle, and we'll have a foul called.
Well, Godwin stayed with it. Look, he's second on the team in offensive rebounding. You watch it here again. I mean, he's long, he's athletic. Now, he's just got to go up and be a little stronger with it. And he's a guy that is talented offensively, but just needs a little bit more strength to round things out.
Can't get the roll. 58% from the line this year. 6'8", 210, the sophomore from Moore, Oklahoma, so pretty good ways from home. And his big thing, especially in evolving to help fill in the void left by Messiah Jones' injury, is stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah, he's had some difficulties with that, but hey, he had a good first year here on campus. I know it wasn't a normal year, but much like Klesmit, he was on the all-freshman team, at least voted by the coaches. Really picked up playing time when they hit Southern Conference play, and boy, that's turned out to be really valuable now as he's needed to play even more minutes here in the 21-22 season.
And stepping in front of it, Patterson with the steal in the air and pass by Burden. He goes to the basket on Burden. The foul called on the guard for Kennesaw. And we'll see Austin Patterson with free throws upcoming.
You watch it again, just a lazy pass, and then to add insult to injury, tries to get the charge, but was really never in position, even though he was outside the arc. That's one of those, boy, let it go, get to the next play. Now you put a foul on yourself. Burden's a guy that needs to stay on the court. He does have almost 2.5 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. Has been better this year. That's one area at the point guard slot for the Owls that really needs to continue to show improvement.
Patterson now 8 of 12 on free throws on the season. A Wofford team, you don't want to put them on the line 74%. They got a couple of guys at 91% or above among their regulars.
Now they seem to always be good, right? Even back in the Mike Young days, Fletcher McGee, Nate Hoover, Nathan Hoover, boy, those guys, they never missed. If they did, there was a collective umph in the arena.
Another turnover, Klesmet. Kick on the wing. Patterson, Klesmet in the corner. Battle for the rebound. Patterson and Burden. And they're going to get the point guard for Kennesaw State with his second.
And there's a prime example, right? Like Burden, that was a hustle play. You look Klesmet, he doesn't miss like that very often. But that's just a hustle foul, and that happens in just as the game's going. But because he added insult to injury previously on that turnover, now he's to it, and 10 minutes to go into the game, he's now on the bench.
See what kind of impact that has. He's likely on the bench for the rest of the half. 6 on the Kennesaw State team, and again, that could be a perilous situation. You put Wofford in the bonus with a bunch of time remaining before the break. Bigelow with Stroud. We told you his good defensive ability, and Wofford able to save the possession. Shot clock coming up on 5. Klesmet. And it's taken away. Jennings with the steal. 2-on-1. Stroud and Safford trailing will be called for the foul.
Boy, when the Owls can get out in transition, that's clearly a foul right there.
Actually, it might have been Patterson.
Yeah.
And it was, so he picks up his first.
Stroud, another guy in that 2020 class, a high school teammate of Chris Youngblood at East Coweta, Greater Atlanta area.
Stroud, Youngblood, and Kaysen Jennings all arrived, and each in that 3-star range or better, and very highly regarded within the state of Georgia. And that's what you need in a program, part one, to rebuild from just a one-win team. And then the other thing you need is those guys to hang around, and their coach says they are committed to the team. And again, in this era of transfers and all that kind of thing, or more transfers and in the transfer portal, they've done a nice job laying the foundation and staying put.
Well, they have, and that's a credit to those kids and their maturity, but also the staff and the assistants that spend a lot of time with players. It is critical, particularly when you're rebuilding like Kennesaw State is.
They had no answer for B.J. Mack early. Goes to work inside and rejected by the 6'10 Springs. But out of bounds, and Wofford will get it back. Wow. Nate Springs hasn't really put up a huge block number this season, but he elevated that time.
He certainly did, and that's generally where shots are blocked, not when the man you're guarding, but from the help side. Now just 5 seconds on the shot clock. Terriers will have to do something very quick.
Larson into Godwin. Larson, good three-point shooter, will force it to beat the buzzer. Godwin, and he didn't realize the ball had hit the rim and given them a fresh shot clock. At least that's what you would suppose based on.
Yeah, that was a pretty awkward shot. You're exactly right.
Kind of shot you see with only a few seconds left in a half. And in that case, they'd gotten the fresh shot clock. Stroud hung up on the baseline. Little pull-up for Youngblood. Boy, what a good-looking player Chris Youngblood is, the sophomore out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama originally.
No question. He, born and raised in Alabama, moved to the greater Atlanta area, went to East Coweta, as we mentioned, with Stroud, but they've got to try to find him shots. He shoots it too well.
Klesmet the kick. Inside contact, and an offensive foul will be called. Matt Klesmet picking up the personal for the Terriers. That'll be his first and the 5th on the Wofford team in the opening half.
Nice job by Stroud there. He was in the right help side position. He saw Klesmet put it on the deck, and he knew that he was going to jump in the air. Nice couple of minutes here for the Owls to just try to continue to claw back in this thing a little bit.
They were down by 8 just moments ago, but a chance to get a little bit closer.
There, you mentioned it earlier. They'll play a number of guys. They can play as many as 11 and not see a real dip. Part of that is they've got some talent where they didn't have that 2 or 3 years ago. They've got some depth, but also I think Coach Abdul-Rahim is trying to find out combinations as they lean into A-Sun play.
Foul on B.J. Mack inside. He picks up his first. And now Wofford with 5. They go on road trips. They haven't won a ball game in a true road setting in a long time, but earlier this season they hung around at Iowa State deep into that game. They had Creighton on the ropes in that big arena in Omaha late into the game before losing by just 7. And they at least get on the bus or the plane now, they tell us, with the confidence that they can hang in a game and who knows, get a bounce either way, make a shot, and maybe come away with what has been elusive victories away from home. Won't go down that time for Rogers. The scramble, though, won by Alex Peterson of Kennesaw State.
Your point's well taken, Pete. I mean, that's the final piece when you're putting a program together that's not real established, is learning how to win.
Rogers changes hands. Nice finish at the basket by the former Southwest Mississippi junior college player. It's also been a key part of them building things. And the
Aluma both in the starting lineup for Mike Young at Virginia Tech. Chavez Goodwin in the lineup at Southern Cal, who were nationally ranked. I think they're still undefeated. And Trey Hollowell, who was a graduate last year, has moved on to Morehead State and helping their perimeter game. So, I mean, it just speaks volumes to this program. It's established. There are expectations. When you go back, you know, Carl Cochran has passed it to Eric Garcia, who's passed it to Storm Murphy, to Ryan Larson, and just the beat goes on in how they do things here on and off the court.
Well, Larson on the court right now. We mentioned the other 4. Jumper from the outside won't go down for Jennings. Out on the wing, Stroud getting it inside to the big Robinson, and a nice piece of defense by Mack, and then there was Larson to clean up. From the corner, Luke Turner, and he can't get that to go, and the rebound will come down to Youngblood. But those 4 who have moved on elsewhere, Wofford being a college doesn't have a grad school, or else someone like Murphy might have been back this year. And they were so good that season. Little runner try that time, won't go down for Youngblood. That talented players like Messiah Jones and Isaiah Bigelow were redshirted.
Yeah, so, and it really benefited them. As you see Patterson right there with the 3.
And an answer for the native of California.
But yeah, again, you're right about the graduate school, the opportunity to play at a higher level. But, you know, what Keve Aluma has done, and he sat out right before the transfer portal kind of kicked in. So that year sitting out in Blacksburg really helped him. He's preseason player of the year in the ACC.
Nice catch and shoot by DeMond Robinson to make it a 6-point game. But essentially 7 guys still in college basketball that you could run out as a team and win big in a lot of conferences. And at one point, they have all been a part of this Wofford program. And when they were a part of the Wofford program, weren't necessarily the stars. There were other guys on the roster who led the way off the steal. Nice coast-to-coast finish.
No, think about
Rogers and Kennesaw State back within 4.
Yeah, they continue to compete. You love the way they stay focused, but kind of to close the loop, yeah, I mean, you think about Fletcher McGee and Cam Jackson. They were the best players on that 18-19 team.
And you could argue that Nathan Hoover was the 3rd best player. I believe he was the 3rd leading scorer on that squad.
Boy, B.J. Mack has been everything and then some here in the first half for Wofford at the offensive end.
Mack now with 12 points. Looked like Rogers might have traveled. He may want to get rid of the ball in a hurry. In that case, though, he's bailed out on the foul by Safford. That's a situation where at that point, the ball becomes a live grenade. Take another look.
No, I do think he traveled. You're exactly right. Had it not been for that bailout, that foul, boy, he was not going to get the next call. It had to be very obvious. Still not in the bonus. That's just the 6th for Wofford, who has defended here for almost 15 minutes without putting the Owls in the bonus.
Safford picking up his first. Goes in the corner. And from the wing, it'll go down for Spencer Rogers, 30%. He's averaging 12.3 a game in Verdon. A little full court pressure shown with Jennings. By the way, Rogers now 2 of 3 beyond the arc. He's their best shooter. He's got 10 points to lead the way for Kennesaw State. Mack with 12 so far for Wofford, coming off a big scoring game against Richmond. Safford from the wing.
That was the right play by Mack, but you know, as long as Kennesaw is going to continue to play him one-on-one, I'm not sure I'd give it up if I was him when you got a foot in the paint.
Terriers now 3 of 10 beyond the arc. Kennesaw State hits them at 32% from long range. Wofford at 34. Shot clock at 10. Youngblood, not a bad shooter in his own right. He's second on the team, 33% beyond the arc.
And they've got this thing tied. As I've said, I love Youngblood. I love what he can do at the offensive end. He stands for the right things. He is the guy you want as a cornerstone of your rebuilding program.
Larson from downtown, way downtown. Ryan Larson able to knock down his first 3 of the game, now has 5 points.
Well, interestingly, Kennesaw has played well with Burden on the bench. He went at 9:52 on the clock. He picked up his second foul, but they really haven't missed a beat with some offensive flow.
Rogers, contact, and they're going to...
Chattanooga, the pick by coaches and the media preseason, and rightfully so. They have continued their winning ways. But Mercer, boy, they had a terrific win yesterday at home against Georgia State. Really showed some fire and grit. Greg Gary has his team playing well at the right time.
Larson thought about a 3. Mack, Klesmit, Larson 58% beyond the arc. He's 1 of 2 today. He'll shovel to the big fella, and Mack knocks down a jumper. Most of his scoring had been close to the hoop before then, but B.J. Mack, quite a first half, 14 points. Terriers back up by 5.
He's now 7 of 8 from the floor. That's about his range, right? He can occasionally take and make a 3, but he does his best work with 2 feet in the paint.
Fastball by Youngblood cross court. Moultrie kicks it in the corner, and from downtown, Youngblood hits another. He's having a good half, as is Rogers. Those two both with 10 apiece, and it's 32-30.
Kennesaw has not gone away, and I don't think they will go away. They've got a confidence about them right now.
Oh, a catch and shoot and a rattle home for Austin Patterson.
He knows how to score the basketball. He's got a mindset a little bit like Klesmit, right? When he comes off a screen, his hands are ready on the catch, and if he's got just anything within the blink of an eye, he's going to get it up.
Coming up on 2 to go in our opening half of play. 4th all-time meeting, the 2nd with Kennesaw State as a D1 member. That time Robinson, who's shown a soft touch near the bucket, can't get the hook shot to fall. Terriers have led by as many as 8 here in the opening half.
Yeah, big 2 minutes right here for Kennesaw to stay close.
Little baby hook that time, and Robinson the defense and the rebound. Moultrie running the point in the absence of Burden with foul trouble, and we've got to reach in against the Terriers.
Stroud caught it right there on the top. He caught it from Moultrie, and then he drove it right back to where the ball came from. Now, he was lucky that Larson and Stafford both reached in there, but generally you want to swing it to the other side. Moultrie was telling him, in a sense, non-verbally, there's nothing over here. Don't drive it back to where it came from.
Stafford heads to the bench, just picked up his 2nd foul for Wofford. Front end of a 1-and-1 for Stroud, won't go down. That was just his 5th free throw attempt of the season. He was 3 of 4 when he stepped to the line.
It's interesting for a guy like that rebounds so well and is so long that he doesn't find himself at the line more.
Klesmit, he's getting the attention of the Kennesaw State defense, as you would understand. That time takes matters into his own hands.
When you're a shooter like that, to keep the defense honest, you do have to be able to put it on the floor. With high accolades.
So good recruiting pipelines in the upper Midwest. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the telecast. Feed inside, and unable to get the handle was Alex Peterson. They turned it over. Quick move to the other end. Larson forcing the shot. Players fly to the floor, no whistle. So now under a minute to go, and Kennesaw State looking to get a little bit closer once more. But on receiving the pass, Youngblood's foot was on the sideline.
Boy, we've seen that more and more over the last couple of years when they extended the 3-point line out. It shrinks that corner where there's not a lot of space and guys just have lost track of where they are.
9 first half turnovers for the Owls.
And that's about 2 or 3 too many for Abdul-Rahim coach's liking. But first things first, they need a stop and potentially a basket to just feel better about themselves. They played well, but you certainly don't want to go down more than 7 into halftime.
Larson gets the attention of Moultrie. Mack, big first half for him. The 6'10 Springs defends. Mack loves to spin, might have dragged his foot. Foul is called.
Well, here's the thing, right? You pick your poison if you're Kennesaw State. You got Patterson out there who can knock down shots. You've got Klesmit, as you watch here again. The double team doesn't come because they're locked in on those Wofford shooters, and so it allows Mack to go to work inside.
He'll head to the free throw line. B.J. Mack, good first half for him, 14 points his first trip. And it's interesting, we're seeing B.J. Mack, who became eligible at Wofford last season, play with his back to the basket more than we have in his year plus that he's been here. That was Messiah Jones' role. Jones, the best drop step, I think, in the SoCon. Yep. And now Mack is trying to be that guy for Jay McCauley and be the one who draws the attention inside to free up those shooters on the wing.
That's a great point, Pete. And, you know, while he's maybe not overly comfortable, that's what he's got to be. And he has shown it here this afternoon that he's certainly more than capable.
Good touch for a big man. 83% from the line this season. Give him 16 in the opening half. Terriers have their biggest lead so far. Shot clock is off. Kennesaw State will look to hang on to the ball and get a final good look. Get a little bit closer. Stroud, Moultrie. Now Jennings, under 10 to go. Jennings gets it back. He'll force. Can't get it to fall. Battle for the rebound. Out of bounds with 2 seconds remaining, and it'll stay in this end.
Now, nice defense by the Terriers right there, just not allowing Kennesaw State to get anything of a clean look. Now, still 2 seconds to go. There's a
Springs, the 6'10 Springs, back on the floor.
And potentially for a lob or a quick catch and shoot.
Around a screen for Springs. Lob in Jennings, out high Stroud, and our 25 down, and that maybe didn't tell the story of how competitive they were on an ACC floor in that contest against the Demon Deacons. Here we go in half number 2. Terriers trying to pick up a 6th win on the year. Go to 6-3, taken away by Burden. Remember, he had to go to the bench pretty early in the first half with 2 fouls. Coast to coast off the steal, and Godwin the rebound.
Boy, that's one of those possessions as you see an opportunity. Look, oh yeah.
Wow, hung up was Mack. Inside by Stroud. Larson. And a little tip try by Bigelow. Godwin battles for the offensive board, and a foul is called, or is it a held ball? It'll be a foul. I think they'll get Stroud for the push.
I'm not sure how that wasn't a jump ball earlier inside. Watch it on the miss right there. It looked like...
I'll tell you what, also, it's the first foul on Stroud, but, you know, good for the officials for letting guys who both were vertical at that initial chase for the ball that there was no whistle, because sometimes you'll see a quick whistle in that situation. And that time a push is Larson, as he is like to do when flying to the floor, the scrappy player that he is.
Finds himself there quite a bit, but it's just because of effort.
Boy, 2 quick fouls to start out the second half on one of the best players on this Kennesaw State team, their best defender, Brandon Stroud. Larson. And it's Stroud defending Mack, who, big fella, has the soft touch. In much better condition this year, and it's this time of the game where I think that's really paying off, because he's just as fresh, it seems, in the second half as he is in the first half.
Yeah, it's noticeable. I mean, you see him in the uniform. He shed 20 pounds. It's noticeable, and it's not only allowed him to play more extended minutes, but now he's rebounding better with better lift. He's not fouling because he's not as fatigued.
Youngblood pulls up on Klesmit. Chris Youngblood came in averaging 12.9 a game, and give him a dozen so far.
I would try to run some set plays for Youngblood, much like Wofford does for Klesmit.
And in that case, for Godwin on the feed from Mack. Mack tied his career high with 18 points on the last trip down. That time, give the big fella an assist from out high.
You can't trade baskets if you're Kennesaw.
Ooh, Stroud, really nice hop step. He was on the verge of making some contact. That could have been his third personal foul. Instead, give him the basket. And it's back to a 9-point game. Klesmit off the handoff. Try to get it to Godwin, and that is on Stroud. That'll be his third.
Well, he's just had such a difficult time with Mack, and even though Mack has lost weight, look at it again here on the reverse. Reaches. That one was defending Godwin. He had switched. But that's a tough one right there to put him on the bench for some extended minutes here.
2 minutes and 6 seconds into the second half, and in that stretch, the best on-ball defender for Kennesaw State on the bench with 3 personal fouls. Isaiah Bigelow returning from being poked in the eye in the opening half, and Bigelow from downtown gets into the scoring column.
This is one of those stretches that Kennesaw sometimes can go through.
Klesmit on the reach in, and give Youngblood some credit. He might have taken a drama class in a recent semester with a little head bob there.
But you think about the start of this half now, right? You're down 9, you come up with a steal, and then Burden can't convert on the layup. And now as you watch the replay right here, nice job on the handoff. You mentioned it. Little acting job with the neck and the head and shoulders falling back. Nice job by Youngblood for a young kid to understand how to sell it.
2 fouls on Klesmit. And for the Terriers, their first here in our second half. Once again contact, and that time I think Youngblood, his head actually was pushed back and running into Ryan Larson, who picked up his second personal.
Now Wofford's got to figure out how to defend that handoff. Just as I was saying, runs some action for Youngblood. I think that's exactly what Coach Abdul-Rahim is doing right now, noting that he has got the hot hand.
Tell you, they've got big guards. You figure in their league that's going to be a real benefit, and they got a guy like Youngblood who can step back, won't get it to go that time. Mack the rebound.
Now, the A-Sun has had some success over the years. Liberty joining has been really good. I don't think it's...
And Liberty ran Missouri off the floor the other night.
They sure did.
Mack going for a career high in points, halfway down. No, but there's Godwin on the putback.
And Alex Peterson thought he was just going to catch that ball if it did. Country, and you may say, well, 60, that doesn't sound real good. But when you figure there's 355 Division I schools, there is talent. Those guys are going to be really good if they continue to stick around and grow.
Robinson, they try to get him to score off the lob. Still plenty of time on the shot clock, but a turnover on the double dribble. And Spencer Rogers getting a little bit too excited. 10th in the game for Kennesaw State. I thought a really interesting comment from the head coach of the Owls before the game was that when he arrived there, Owls players didn't have 24-hour access to the practice facility. That's one thing he immediately put in place, and now he's building a roster of what he says are basically gym rats, and he's got to chase guys out of the gym, and that wasn't part of their culture either before he arrived.
Yeah, and look, and if you looked at the Wofford program, how, you know, it's that old adage that, you know, tradition doesn't graduate, it just continues. And when guys leave, it's passed to the next group of players, and it's been that way for years. And you go back to 2006, 7, 8, and those guys. And yes, there is a Wofford way, and that's what Coach Abdul-Rahim envisions for this Kennesaw program, to have kind of the Kennesaw way.
Jennings picked up his second foul just moments ago for Kennesaw State. Bigelow can't get the jumper. It's a 14-point game. But culture changes so often the case when you've got to rebuild a program, and he has done a major overhaul. Look at Jennings, 6'3" guard, 3-star recruit, was number 24 in the Peach State coming out of high school, and he knocks that jumper down.
He's much improved this year. I mean, he was 5 points a game this Wofford team last week went to Georgia and beat. I mean, Furman's had wins over the years against Villanova and Loyola Chicago. It's just on and on. This is a
Louisville earlier this season.
Absolutely, absolutely. Terrific men's basketball conference.
Ooh, Larson had to go halfway down to beat the shot clock buzzer. He'll get it back from Safford. Rare back-to-back misses on 3 attempts, and then a foul on the Terriers inside. Sam Godwin, the personal foul, but the headline there is it's just his first, and here we are almost 5 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, for a guy who has battled fouls and you mentioned it earlier, the first half, he needs to stay on the court. With Messiah Jones out, he's got to be one of those guys that can help carry the load and defend inside.
Stanford picked up a big win at Oregon State earlier in the year in the SoCon, so the league getting off to a great start. I think it's just going to be a phenomenal regular season race, and then you get to the tournament, and that's going to be high drama. And maybe we arrive in Asheville with 6 or 7 teams with a legitimate chance to win. Jennings showing why the Kennesaw State Owls are probably going to be better than being picked second to last in their conference, the A-Sun.
Hey, think about this. I mean, we continue to try to top each other. Citadel went to Pitt this year and picked up an ACC win. And
other Power 5 win.
VMI goes and beats Portland out of the WCC. They're not Gonzaga or St. Mary, but again, the list just goes on and on.
Godwin kicks it on the wing. Patterson knocks down another tray. Good game for him. 14 points. He's 3 of 3 beyond the arc. Actually 4 of 4 now.
Yeah. No, he had 3 in the first half, and he has picked up where Klesmit's not been able to knock down, has see as many clean looks. A little bit of a dangerous time for Kennesaw State, now down 13.
That 3 gave Patterson a new career high from the corner. Boy, a big answer that time by Kaysen Jennings.
Certainly what he has picked up here in the second half. Now, if you're Kennesaw, you've got to defend. They've kind of fallen back into kind of a matchup of sort. Looks like a 1-3-1, more of a 2-3 matchup.
Patterson just reached his career high. Mack is sitting on his. Safford, double team comes, trying to get it away. Larson. Patterson to Safford. Morgan Safford, another guy who can get you from the outside. His first points of the game, and the Terriers build the lead back out to 13.
And there was a look. Patterson was open to take the shot, but he chose better. He had a good shot. Passed it to Safford, who had a great shot.
Kennesaw State was looking to make a run coming out of that last timeout. Big possessions upcoming for them, and Peterson able to get the foul against Mack. 2 on B.J. Mack.
That's one of the first times here in the last couple of minutes that anyone from Kennesaw has chosen to try to make a move inside. Kind of been the Jennings show the last 3 possessions.
Alex Peterson, senior, came to their program from Missouri State West Plains, originally from the state of Virginia, in his second year in the Owls program. And again, they brought in junior college players, some transfers to build around that 2020 recruiting class group so they could get old and try to stay old for a couple of years while those guys came along.
That's right. Youngblood, Stroud in particular, Jennings as sophomores. As you see, Peterson's shot not only brings range, but banks in.
Inartful, but effective, and makes it a 12-point game once again.
Now you see some full court pressure. I like this move by Kennesaw State. You've got to do something to just try to get the Terriers out of rhythm.
And oftentimes, Amir Abdur-Rahim will spring the full court press as much just to get some energy going for his guys. And if you do get a quick turnover in points, maybe that'll spark a run. If nothing else, as you said, you disrupt flow for the opposition. Foul inside, and the size mismatch exploited as B.J. Mack was able to get Jameer Moultrie to reach around. Moultrie, the 16th foul here in the half on the Owls.
That's never a good sign, putting the Terriers in the bonus.
6'1" Moultrie had no chance in trying to contain the 6'8" Mack, who was about to get the ball. Larson defended by Stroud, which gives you an idea as to how dangerous Kennesaw State thinks he is. Mack, little crossover to lose Springs on his way to the hoop. He's fouled.
I thought Mack got away with kind of picking the ball up and carrying it there just a little bit. Hey, you watch this here, right here, kind of picked it up. Thought both hands touched it. Nevertheless, nice drive to the rim.
Reach in by Spencer Rogers. And he now has 3. Brandon Stroud has been back on the floor with the 3 quick personals he picked up to start the second half. But those are 2 important players. In fact, they were hanging around against Iowa State earlier this season when Rogers fouled out and never could get over the hump, probably because he wasn't on the floor. And B.J. Mack now has established a new career high. He was sitting on 18 points for a while that he'd scored against Hampton in here a couple of weeks ago. And now give him 20 in the contest off those free throws. And there's Larson with the steal. Room to head to the hoop and build the lead out to 58-42.
That's the kind of play that Ryan Larson is known for. Oh, this is 97th career game. I mean, he's played in some really big, important games in a Terrier uniform, and now it sparks a little bit of a continued run.
Terriers look to build on their biggest lead. Nice feed from Larson. Wofford Terriers have gotten the flow going here in the second half.
They certainly have, led by the big fella, B.J. Mack, career high in counting. Terriers up 16.
Over the years, Wofford had established some really good recruiting ties in the upper Midwest, but now with guys like Luke Turner and Austin Patterson, they've reached out to the West Coast of California.
A couple of SoCal guys playing for West Coast Elite travel basketball. That is a high-level AAU program. You see right there, Luke Turner. He was good in the first half. I mean, a positionless guy, as we mentioned, that can do a lot of things to stretch the floor. He's got a bright career, as does that guy right there, Austin Patterson. He has doubled his career high in 3-point field goals made in a game, previously 2. He's now made 4. He's 4 of 4 on the afternoon and has 14, just behind the guy at the line, B.J. Mack's team leading 20, now 21.
And for both those players, Patterson and Mack, career highs so far this afternoon. Mack's previous was 18 against Hampton. Patterson had 11 earlier this season against Bob Jones. B.J. Mack, that's something else he brings to the table. You want to foul him? You got an 83% shooter standing at the foul line. He's now a perfect 6 of 6, 22 to lead all scorers. And Wofford building on its biggest lead of the game, now up by 18.
Well, he's a guy that transferred from South Florida, but he had to sit out. And that year, 2 years ago, really helped him.
An errant pass, as it turns out, as Burden went for the save. From the corner, Patterson, how about a 5th 3 on the afternoon, and he'll head to the line. Boy, Austin Patterson, they thought he'd be coming as a freshman this year. He arrived early last season, and now you're starting to see the growth.
Well, I mean, when you're feeling it, you take those shots. Nice job to find him in transition. He ran to that open spot. Cardinal sin in basketball, do not foul the 3-point jump shooter. And now Kennesaw finds themselves in one of those 4, 5, 6-minute runs that just nothing going right at either in turnovers, at the offensive end, and unfortunately fouling jump shooters at the other end.
And one of the many good players from the free throw line for Jay McCauley, Austin Patterson, a 64-42 ball game. Patterson now with 18 points, perfect from beyond the arc, 5 of 5, perfect from the line, 3 of 3, and overall 5 of 6 from the field.
Patterson, it's interesting, right? You mentioned he kind of came to campus and played a couple of days later in mid-December of last year. He's planning on going to prep school, and while the Terrier staff knew of him and had lightly recruited him, it wasn't as though they had spent years. And sometimes you find the best players that way.
Amir Moultrie, their best 3-point shooter, couldn't knock down the 3, and now a foul against the Terriers' Max Klesmet. And looks like everything's going to be okay with Youngblood getting back to the
came down just on his own. Watch this here again. Came down just on his right leg, and saw a little bit of a buckle, but he kind of gave the thumbs up. Boy, that collective sigh of relief by the Kennesaw State bench and the fan base.
Moultrie looking inbound. You see taking the feed, Cole LaRue, one of the backup post players who's checked into the ball game for the first time. Rogers and Youngblood trying to shed Mack, lost his balance, and a foul will be called. They'll get Mack on the trip, and that'll be a third personal foul on him after Klesmit picked up his third just moments ago.
Now some incidental contact by BJ right there, but give Youngblood credit for the shot fake to be able to get by. And look, as an offensive player, if you can get shoulder to shoulder with that defender, generally you're gonna be able to beat that guy to the rim or the spot you're going.
Mack will get a breather. Bigelow back in. One big positive for the Terriers so far today is the foul trouble. Even though you've got two of their better players now with three, but it has been at a much better pace from the corner. Won't go for Youngblood. Patterson the rebound. And Jay McCauley had said since Messiah Jones went out a couple of weeks ago for the season, it's like his team has been in foul trouble ever since. This is the first game where they've really been able to spread those out. Bad pass inside by Bigelow. The steal by Moultrie, and he was wondering if there would be a whistle, but nothing doing.
He was the one that made the contact. That's a good no call.
And smart play by Godwin to throw it off of LaRue and keep the possession for Wofford.
Now, Wofford has found a nice rhythm. I mean, obviously, when the ball's going in the basket, i.e. BJ Mack shooting a high percentage and Austin Patterson being 5 from 5 behind the arc, but they found a rhythm offensively, and that's what they want to do before you get to Southern Conference play.
Kick on the wing from Larson. Unable to get it was Safford. Bigelow scrapped for the rebound, but now a foul will be called on Godwin. That'll be his second. Tell you, a big takeaway for this game, Dean, that I think is, as we see the scrap inside, he's over on the bench right now, but the fact that BJ Mack has scored a good part of his 22 points beginning with his back to the basket. I think he just has to keep playing that way, and they've obviously tried to tell him and encourage him and coach him to do that.
I mean, he has to at this point, and good for him to seemingly accept that role. But we just can't overstate what the loss of Messiah Jones means to this team. But yeah, I mean, you see some really good basketball players right there on the bench. Here's Messiah talking to Klesmit and BJ, and he's going to be an outstanding assistant or student assistant this year, and he'll heal. He'll be fine. It'll be tough this year, and he'll go through some difficult days in the rehab, but rest assured he will be back.
Had to deal with a leg injury last year that made him miss some action, but he was able to tough his way through it. Messiah Jones. As Youngblood, the 90% free throw shooter, just made a couple, but still a 20-point Terriers lead. Bigelow, another player they're hoping at 6'7", can help him inside, but he's also got skills on the outside. Shot clock under 10. Larson. Safford will try again from the left side. Battle for the rebound, Bigelow and Jennings, and they'll get Isaiah Bigelow on the personal foul.
That's a nice box out right there by Jennings. It was a terrific find by Larson. Boy, he had the right pace, mindset. He found Safford wide open in the corner. Just they couldn't knock it down, but nice box out there by Jennings, and now that puts him at the free throw line in the bonus situation.
Second on Bigelow, so yeah, once again a bonus opportunity for Kennesaw State. This time Kason Jennings, 79% from the line, second on their team out of Fairburn, Georgia. Bunch of guys from the Atlanta area or the North Georgia area on this roster. Amir Abdur-Rahim says you don't want to necessarily take them just because they're from Georgia, but the Atlanta area is such a fertile high school basketball domain that, I mean, why not? You could, throw a blanket out and find a great AAU game in the summertime and a great high school game during the season. There's so many guys that they can get to come to their place and be successful.
We see it at Lake Point all the time. I mean, the top kids come and play, whether it's the Nike, Adidas, Under Armour circuits or independent teams. But yeah, if you cast a 25-mile radius from the Kennesaw State campus, I mean, you might find 30 or 40 Division I players in a given class, and I think this year will be the same. And then when you take into consideration, well, you don't want to just live and die with the transfer portal, but maybe a kid who's gone to an SEC and not finding the right playing time can come back and help build this Kennesaw State program as well. I think it's a sleeping giant, and I think Abdur-Rahim, Coach I keeps Amir Abdur-Rahim is the right man at the right time for this program.
Klesmit, great free throw shooter, 92%, the team leader for Wofford after the third foul against Jennings. Kennesaw State, you may have heard of it if you're wondering exactly where it is. If you're familiar with where the Braves' new ballpark is located, and a rare miss by Klesmit, right there above the Beltway where I-75 meets 285. One exit, you got the Braves ballpark. About 2 or 3 exits up is Kennesaw State up north on I-75. So it's out that way, a real growing part in Cobb County of the Atlanta area.
That's right, one of the largest universities in the state. They've done, past presidents and athletic directors have done a great job. Their football program, quite good, lost to a SoCon team yesterday.
Klesmit leads the Terrier team in steals. We just saw why. Now we'll try to score, and he does. Second game in which Max Klesmit, the leading scorer for this Wofford ball club, hasn't made a huge impact. They haven't needed to today. Give him 8, and the Terrier lead at 67-46.
Well, I think we all know how talented he is, but it's exciting if you're a Wofford fan to see what Austin Patterson can do.
Big answer by Chris Young. Did you feel a point in time where you and the staff looked at each other at a practice or at some point and thought, you know what, we've got that next gear in us?
Yeah, absolutely, and it was confirmed in early February. We went to Cameron Indoor Stadium and beat Duke pretty handily. And that, Doug, you don't hear the Cameron Crazies being quiet with 4 or 5 minutes to go in a game. And the point is that that group, much like I said, they expected to win, and there was a difference between being confident and cocky. So yes, to answer your question, you feel it as a coach when you're around a team like that every day.
Larson was part of a Wofford team that certainly felt it when he was a freshman. They won 30 games, and now as a senior, he's trying to get the Terriers to continue to be a big factor in the SoCon, which I think they will be, but also take care of the business they should. And this is a game you looked at on the calendar and you thought, winnable ball game. But this is a team that still has some opportunities outside of the conference to make an impact and add on to the good resume they've already built with their win against Georgia. The loss against Richmond the other night, that was a team with a bunch of 5th and 6th year guys who were talented. Safford can't get the runner to fall, but really no loss in valor in losing that game because Richmond's going to compete in the A-10. And again, what you always try to do, they're trying to make the best out of a loss, learn from it, and grow from it.
Yeah, sometimes you can win by losing, but that's a great point, Pete. I mean, Richmond, a really, really good team in the Atlantic 10. And I'll tell you what else, the Georgia Southern win will eventually be good for Wofford in the Southern Conference as well. They see Youngblood again. I've seen Ken, I think the last point is those points off turnovers. We've got 14 now for the Owls in the game, and many of them have led 2 points for the Terriers.
Owls trying to get stops. They have reduced what was a 22-point advantage down to 15. Mack back on the floor after getting a breather. Both he and Klesmit with 3 fouls apiece. LaRue trying to defend Mack. First time he's seen him today after checking in moments ago for Kennesaw State. Back to their big guy. 2 on the shot clock. Soft touch. And give him 24 so far this afternoon.
Another very, very good offensive possession by the Terriers, taking it from one side to the other, inside and out, until they get what they want.
Wofford playing here on December 5th at home. It'll be nearly a month before they return to Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium.
Yeah, just one game between now and January 5th.
And that doesn't come up until December 29th, their SoCon opener against VMI.
Yeah, here we are. The calendar has turned December, and so that means SoCon play at the end of the month.
Some trips inside of the Palmetto State and one just across the border upcoming for Wofford as part of 4 straight away. Klesmit from the outside. Max Klesmit knocking down the tray and give him 11. He's 2 of 4 beyond the arc.
Pete, you bring a good point up. You say, well, their next 4 on the road, but yeah, not that many, not that much travel.
Patterson adding to his career high off the steal. Another guy whose role is increasing in this lineup for the Terriers. 18 for the sophomore out of California.
And that just adds to the points off turnovers. Live ball turnover at half court. Just can't have that if you're going to win on the road.
Youngblood unable to finish inside. He usually does. Terriers, though, with an upcoming game at Gardner-Webb. That'll be on Wednesday night. A go to Coastal Carolina, then just down the road to Clinton, take on an improved Presbyterian team. Not that time for Patterson. Good hustle by Safford to keep the possession alive. And they go to Pittsburgh and they face Duquesne, another one of those teams at the level I believe that they'll consider to be of Richmond, and another A10 team to face in a league that includes St. Bonaventure, which has been top 25 all year long.
Those are good matchups for the Southern Conference, right? For Wofford to play those A10s. You see here the replay with Larson setting the screen for Klesmit and getting fouled by Youngblood. But yeah, I mean, Duquesne, you get to Pittsburgh. Keith Dambrot is an outstanding coach. Duquesne, beautiful new arena. I mean, that's again, those are the kind of games that the SoCon needs. If I could be the commissioner for a day, I would probably do away with all but say one non-one game for a team. We still have some teams, and I know they're rebuilding and every program is different, but to allow a team to play as many as 3 non-ones just, to me, does nothing particularly as good as the Southern Conference is these days.
And it does look good if they can go to a Pittsburgh and knock off a Duquesne. They had trailed by 18 the other night against Richmond. Very good A10 team, and got back within 2. And had they been able to put that right behind the win at Georgia, that obviously would have been even more impactful as far as the SoCon goes and as far as their resume goes. But here they are trying to wrap this one up against Kennesaw State. Missed from the outside, wouldn't go down for Rogers. He gets it back. 24-point game as the Terriers are on a 9-0 run coming out of that last time out. Inside, Stroud had it knocked away by Klesmit.
Well, the active hands by Larson, Klesmit, really by the Terrier team. They swarm the ball. They get as many as 35, 40 deflections sometimes in a game.
Safford, and a reach-in foul be called. It'll be Youngblood. That'll be his 3rd. So Morgan Safford, sophomore out of Columbus, Ohio, played at Bishop Harley. And another one of those players like we've seen today. Patterson has blown away his previous career high of 11 points with 20. But Safford's one of those guys I expect to look up in a game or in a box score and suddenly see with a 12, 15-point night or several in a row.
Absolutely. Talented, got a high motor. That's what I like about him. He just constantly, his motor is moving. You've seen him here this afternoon corral some rebounds, some loose balls, those 50-50 plays that are winning plays. I mean, he's the 3rd member of that freshman group a year ago that was voted to the all-freshman team. He was both on the coaches and media all-freshman. The one thing, he's a solid shooter. You saw it right there by the free throws. He's got to get back to shooting it with confidence. Just 23% behind the arc in the early part of this season.
11-0 run for Wofford. Kennesaw State, that bucket, their first points in over 3 minutes as Rogers hit the deck as he finished. He's got 12 in the game. Terriers on the verge of going 4-0 all time against Kennesaw State. Patterson. And now Godwin will give it to Safford.
Godwin not even looking at the basket, not even facing up until he gets down in the post.
Shot clock at 2. Larson will force. Game of the week. And with Dean Keener, Pete Hannity back with you here at Jerry Richardson Indoor Stadium. Dean, I know you and I are looking forward to some great games week in and week out that we are going to see in the SoCon.
Absolutely. We've seen a couple already. We saw Furman 2 weeks ago, and now Wofford, 2 Southern Conference teams that should be in the top half of the league. But you mentioned it a little while ago. I mean, there could be as many as 6 or 7 teams that go to Asheville for the conference tournament, which, by the way, is the best place for the SoCon.
Greatest tourney, and frankly, a lot of these regular season games, and if you're in a SoCon market and have never checked out a Southern Conference game, by all means, you really should make plans to do so, because it's really high level. You're seeing some guys who are going to be playing at the next level as in the NBA, and many who will go on to play pro elsewhere. This Wofford program, a great example of that, as Stroud knocks down the first free throw. You see the foul going against Godwin. And Godwin picked up his third, but all have come in the second half.
To your point, I mean, in the SoCon, just the elevation of talent, of coaching, and it's bared itself out. I mean, fortunately, unfortunately, Mike Young has moved from this Wofford program to the ACC at Virginia Tech. Steve Forbes, what he did at ETSU, now what he's doing at Wake Forest. I mean, there's just been numerous guys and players.
Patterson on a nice find by Larson. And the other Californian, Luke Turner, tried to finish up, and a foul is called.
Wes Miller, what he did is you see the replay, the pass ahead. Patterson can't finish, but Wes Miller, 10 years, a decade at Greensboro, just doing a fantastic job now at Cincinnati, and they'll play in the AAC this year and then move to the Big 12. So, but it's not just the coaches, it's not just the players, it's the administrators. And look what we're here today, Richardson Indoor Stadium. To your point, like if you're in a SoCon market, they care about basketball, but you can be close to the action and around some really good action.
So Turner, who made an impact in the opening half when Wofford erased an early deficit, able to add to his day. All of his points coming on free throws, 3 of 4 from the line, and his first 3 made free throws in a Wofford uniform coming here this afternoon. And that SoCon tourney last year, a Mercer team, made the run from Friday to Monday. Nice finish right there. Of course, they had to run into a very talented foe, but with Wes Miller moving on from UNCG, now Mike Jones, veteran coach who came from Radford, has done a nice job early on. Off the steal, nice rejection, as you saw the athletic ability of Morgan Safford to deny the easy points for Alex Peterson.
Boy, and Coach Abdul-Rahim, he's got to watch himself. He's angry that there wasn't some contact as Peterson was going up to shoot that.
Turner to inbound against the full court pressure.
Nevertheless, I mean, they're pressing right here, and they may be down 22, but this is not only for this game, but this is to make sure that he knows, and his team knows.
Safford didn't realize what the
clock
was doing. It looked like he was going to go full board to get it across. But back, as you were saying, this is all about, again, trying to use every second you have in game action to grow. And every coach on the planet will always tell you, well, we use non-conference, get ready for conference. But never has that been more apparent and more vital this season than for this Kennesaw State team to be more of a factor than they're expected to be in the Atlantic Sun.
That's right. There's no way they'll finish 11th out of 11 teams. And there's some good basketball. When we talked about Liberty, Florida Gulf Coast, Jacksonville State, there's some really good teams in the A-Sun, but no, this Kennesaw State team is going to make some noise come January and February in the A-Sun. Interestingly, they're shooting 51% from the floor here this afternoon, and they find themselves down by a wide margin. Part of that is they've got 9 less field goal attempts than the Terriers, and they've made 12 fewer free throws.
Comes into Jennings. Wofford led by 9 at the break. Little lob inside, and Springs will head to the free throw line. But a 9-point Terrier lead, and so you see what the score looks like now as we take another look. Patterson really never had a chance, standing 6'3", to deny the 6'10" Ohio transfer Springs. But a lot of the metrics really not all that bad for Kennesaw State today. 16 turnovers, just a couple more than their average, and mind you, in the opening half, they had 9. And so
part of those have been live ball, though. You know, we saw them at half court, which have led to Terrier points. It's a difference if they're live ball, if they're dead ball, and you can get back and set your defense. You're right, 16, is that a couple too many? Yes, but it's not just a crazy amount.
And you face a Wofford team that forces nearly 17, so it's been about what you might expect when you face the Terriers. For all the great offensive prowess they've shown in recent seasons with the success they've had, they've been among the most difficult teams to score against in the SoCon. Klesmit's fouled. And the fact that going back to Mike Young and now through Jay McCauley, they just don't turn the ball over. And isn't it interesting to kind of watch how Virginia Tech has morphed into such an efficient team in the ACC now? 3 years into Mike Young, they only give it up, what, about 9, 10 times a game?
That's right. That's exactly right. Boy, I'll tell you, I was surprised to see that Wake Forest score against Virginia Tech, though, the other day. That proves that Steve Forbes has the Demon Deacons headed in the right direction.
And, you know, two guys who elevated from this league had some knock them down, drag them outs against each other. And Steve Forbes probably had a feeling what Mike Young was going to do. Obviously, Mike Young, vice versa, but a really good example of the fact that the talent on the floor had to win the game, but the fact that there was familiarity in the coaching certainly, you've got to think, was a factor.
Well, think about this, changing gears for a moment. I mean, the coaches predicted this Wofford team 5th out of a 10-team Southern Conference. That's no disrespect to Chattanooga, Furman, ETSU, and Mercer, the 4 predicted ahead of them. But if this is the 5th best team in this league, this is going to be really, really fun. You talked about the Ingles games of the week. It'll be fun to follow all the action.
Crowd able to knock it down. Terriers have led by as many as 26 points in the second half after they were up by 9 at the break. Came into Tripp, gets it ahead to Keaton Turner. Patterson a career high day. Wofford obviously just trying to work some clock. A lot of faces of the future on the floor right now for this Wofford team.
And even with that crisp movement, player movement, ball movement.
Luke Turner able to bank one home. So Turner 7 points in the game. That's his first field goal.
But give this group credit. They're focused at the defensive end. They were focused at the offensive end.
And Bigelow the rebound. 5 points for Luke Turner now as he just got his first field goal. I thought he'd hit 5 free throws. He said 3. Foul on Springs, and they'll walk to the other end. So with that Chattanooga-Mercer game, the next time we have an Ingles-SoCon game of the week, Chattanooga's beaten VCU. They come close against some other high majors. Mercer, just like Chattanooga, what a great coaching matchup it's going to be. Lamont Paris and Greg Gary, and a Mercer team that you mentioned got a win against a good Sun Belt squad, Georgia State.
They were outstanding yesterday. Felipe Haase is really good. Neftali Alvarez is one of the best point guards in the Southern Conference. But it was James Glisson who had a career-high 25.
And they've got a post player who's gotten himself in shape and also jumps off the page.
Yeah, Shannon Grant, exactly. The sophomore out of Alabama is now, you know, a little bit in the B.J. Mack mold. That's a great point. He's a guy that's gotten in shape, lost weight, and he understands what it takes now to compete at a high level in the Southern Conference.
Terriers will take this down a little bit. Tripp, though, is fouled by Springs. So as you saw on the lower third bar, 2 p.m. on New Year's Day. Hope you make us part of your holiday plans. Next, our network of stations.
And I would think so, right? New Year's, there's still bowl games, but it's not like it was when we were growing up, right?
And back then, there was no basketball on New Year's Day. It was only the bowl games, at least as I recall.
Hey, I would think that we'll be fighting the NBA as much as we will be some bowl games.
Yeah.
I would think Alabama and potentially Georgia are going to be playing at a later time in January, football.
Tripp showing some good work from the free throw line, playing in his 4th game in the early days of his Wofford career. Shot clock turned off. Kennesaw State will fall to 3-6 on the year. The Terriers of Wofford will improve to 6-3 on the season. Good hustle that time, but taken away by Patterson. Final 10 seconds will be dribbled out. The Wofford Terriers will go 4-0 all time against the Kennesaw State Owls from just north of Atlanta, Georgia.